Hey, okay, so we finished Shiloh last week and I am going to start, oh, that's upside down, The Tale of Despereaux today. It is so good. And a plus side to it, there is a movie that you can watch when I'm finished. Okay, so there may be some new watchers today, and I want to share something that I do back here. And I'm asking a different question every day so that I can learn more about my own students and now about others who may be watching. So today is Tasty Tuesday, and Mrs. G is sitting here in quarantine in her house, and she's running out of dinner ideas. So I want to know, what is your favorite dinner that your mom makes or your dad makes or whoever it is that makes you dinner? I want to know what your favorite thing is. Okay, so that is the question for today, and you can send it here to my email address, or if you're in my class, you can send it on Class Dojo, or you can find me on Facebook and send it through Messenger, or a bird with carrying the letter to my house. Some way, get a hold of me and tell me what it is that you love to have for dinner. Okay, so I'm going to start the tale. It's upside down again. I'm going to start the Tale of Despereaux today, and the chapters vary. So some days they are shorter and other days they are longer. So it'll just depend on each day how many chapters I do. I think today I'm going to do like 5 because they're pretty short. So then we'll see tomorrow what it's going to be. All right, so The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DeCamillo, something like that. Okay. Alrighty, so if you are in my class this year, we have already read another book by her, and we read Because of Winn-Dixie. She wrote that book. Okay, so part 1 is called A Mouse is Born. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm turning the page. So A Mouse is Born. If there are pictures, I will show them to you. I can't remember if there are a couple. Okay, chapter 1, the last one. The story begins within the walls of a castle with the birth of a mouse, a small mouse, the last mouse born to his parents, and the only one of his litter to be born alive. "Where are my babies?" said the exhausted mother when the ordeal was through. "Show me to my babies." The father mouse held the one small mouse up high. "This is the only one. The others are dead." "Oh, mon Dieu," said the one mouse baby. "Just the one? Will you name him?" "All of that work for nothing," said the mother mouse. "It is so sad. It is such the disappointment." She was a French mouse who arrived at the castle long ago in the luggage of a visiting French diplomat. Disappointment was one of her favorite words. She used it often. "Will you name him?" repeated the father. "Will I name him? Will I name him? Of course I will name him, but he will likely only die like the others. Oh, so sad. Oh, such the tragedy." The mouse mother held a handkerchief to her nose and then waved it in front of her face, and she sniffed. "I will name him. Yes, I will name this mouse Despereaux. For all the sadness, for all the many despairs in this place. Now, where is my mirror?" Her husband handed her a small shard of a mirror. The mouse mother, whose name was Antoinette, looked at her reflection and gasped out loud. "Toulouse," she said to one of her sons, "get for me my makeup bag. My eyes are a fright." While Antoinette touched up her eye makeup, the mouse father put Despereaux down on a bed made of blanket scraps. The April sun, weak but determined, shone through a castle window, and from there squeezed itself through a small hole in the wall and placed one golden finger on the little mouse. The other, older mice children gathered around to stare at Despereaux. "Well, his ears are too big," said his sister Merlot. "Those are the biggest ears I've ever seen." "Look," said a brother named Furlough. "His eyes are open. Pa, his eyes are open. They shouldn't be." It is true, Despereaux's eyes should not have been open, but they were. He was staring at the sun reflecting off his mother's mirror. The light was shining onto the ceiling in an oval of brilliance, and he was smiling up at the sight. "There's something wrong with him," said the father. "Leave him alone." Despereaux's brothers and sisters stepped back away from the new mouse. "This is the last," proclaimed Antoinette from her bed. "I will have no more mice babies. They are such the disappointment. They are hard on my beauty. They ruin me, my looks. This is the last one. No more." "The last one," said the father, "and he'll be dead soon. He can't live, not with his eyes open like that." But reader, that's us. He did live, and this is his story. So this is the picture. I hope you can see it. It says that Despereaux's eyes should not have been open. Also, this book has some French words, and Miss G does not speak French. So if I totally messed them up, I'm sorry. Okay, chapter 2. Such a disappointment. Despereaux Tilling lived, but his existence was cause for much speculation in the mouse community. "He's the smallest mouse I've ever seen," said his Aunt Florence. "It's ridiculous. No mouse has ever been this small, not even a Tilling." She looked at Despereaux through narrowed eyes as if she expected him to just disappear entirely. "No mouse," she said again, "ever." Despereaux, his tail wrapped around his feet, stared back at her. "Those are some big ears he's got too," observed his Uncle Alfred. "They look more like donkey ears if you ask me." "They're obscenely large ears," said Aunt Florence. Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. "They say he was born with his eyes open," whispered Uncle Alfred. Despereaux stared hard at his uncle. "Impossible," said Aunt Florence. "No mouse, no matter how small or obscenely large-eared, is ever born with his eyes open. It simply isn't done." "His pa, Lester, says he's not well," says Uncle Alfred. Despereaux sneezed. He said nothing in defense of himself. How could he? Everything his aunt and uncle said was true. He was ridiculously small. His ears were obscenely large. He had been born with his eyes open, and he was sickly. He coughed and sneezed so often that he carried a handkerchief in one paw at all times. He ran temperatures, he fainted at loud noises, and most alarming of all, he showed no interest in the things a mouse should show interest in. He did not think constantly of food. He was not intent on tracking down every crumb. With his larger, older siblings ate, Despereaux stood with his head cocked to one side, holding very still. "Do you hear that sweet, sweet sound?" he would say. "Well, I hear the sound of cake crumbs falling out of people's mouths and hitting the floor," said his brother Talise. "That's what I hear." "No," said Despereaux, "it's something else. It sounds like honey." "You might have big ears," said Talise, "but they're not attached to your brain right. You don't hear honey, you smell honey. When there's honey to smell, which there isn't." "Son," barked Despereaux's father, "snap to it. Get your head out of the clouds and hunt for crumbs." "Please," said his mother, "look for the crumbs. Eat them to make your mama happy. You are such the skinny mouse. You're a disappointment to your mother." "Sorry," said Despereaux, and he lowered his head and sniffed the castle floor. But reader, he was not smelling. He was listening with his big ears to the sweet sound that no other mouse seemed to hear. Chapter 3. Once upon a time. Despereaux's siblings tried to educate him in the ways of being a mouse. His brother, Furlough, took him on a tour of the castle to demonstrate the art of scurrying. "Move side to side," instructed Furlough, scrapping against the waxed castle floor. "Look over your shoulder all the time. First to the right, then to the left, and don't stop for anything." But Despereaux wasn't listening to Furlough. He was staring at the light pouring in through the stained glass windows of the castle. He stood on his hind legs and held his handkerchief over his heart and stared up, up, up into the brilliant light. "Furlough," he said, "what is this thing? What are all of these colors? Are we in heaven?" "Cripes!" shouted Furlough from a far corner. "Don't stand there in the middle of the floor talking about heaven. Move! You're a mouse, not a man. You've got to scurry." "What?" said Despereaux, still staring at the light. But Furlough was gone. He had, like a good mouse, disappeared into a hole in the molding. Despereaux's sister Merlot took him to the castle library, where the light came streaming in through tall, high windows and landed on the floor in bright yellow patches. Here, said Merlot, follow me, small brother, and I will instruct you on the fine points of how to nibble paper. Merlot scurried up a chair, and from there hopped onto a table, which there sat a large, huge, open book. This way, small brother, she said as she crawled onto the pages of the book, and Despereaux followed her from the chair to the table to the page. Now then, said Merlot, this glue here is tasty, and the paper edges are crunchy and yummy, like so. She nibbled the edge of a page and then looked over at Despereaux. You try, she said. First, a bite of some glue, and then follow it with a crunch of the paper. And these squiggles, they are very tasty. Despereaux looked down at the book and something remarkable happened. The marks on the pages, the squiggles, as Merlot referred to them, arranged themselves into shapes. And the shapes arranged themselves into words. And the words spelled out a delicious and wonderful phrase. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, whispered Despereaux. What? Said Merlot. Nothing. Eat, said Merlot. And there's another picture. It says, once upon a time, whispered Despereaux. I couldn't possibly, said Despereaux, backing away from the book. Why? Said Despereaux, it would ruin the story. The story? What story? Merlot stared at him. A piece of paper trembled across the end of one of her indignant whiskers. It's just like Pa said when you were born. Something is not right with you. She turned and scurried from the library to tell her parents about this latest disappointment. Despereaux waited until she was gone, and then he reached out and with one paw touched the lovely words, once upon a time. He shivered, he sneezed, he blew his nose onto his handkerchief. Once upon a time, he said out loud, relishing the sound, and then tracing each word with his paw, he read the story of a beautiful princess and the brave knight who serves and honors her. Despereaux did not know it, but he would need, very soon, to be brave himself. Have I mentioned that beneath the castle there was a dungeon, and in the dungeon there were rats, large rats, mean rats. Despereaux was destined to meet those rats. Reader, you must know that an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not, awaits almost everyone, mouse or man, who does not conform. If you hear that crunching, Ellie, my German shepherd, is eating her food on the other side of my table. Chapter 4, Enter the Pea. Despereaux's brothers and sisters soon abandoned the thankless task of trying to educate him in the way of being a mouse. And so Despereaux was free. He spent his days as he wanted. He wandered through the rooms of the castle, staring dreamily at the light streaming in through the stained glass windows. He went to the library and read over and over again the story of the fair maiden and the knight who rescued her. And he discovered, finally, the source of the honey-sweet sound. The sound was music. The sound was King Philip playing his guitar and singing to his daughter, the Princess P, every night before she fell asleep. Hidden in the hole of the wall of the princess's bedroom, the mouse listened with his heart. The sound of the king's music made Despereaux's soul grow large and light inside of him. Oh, he said, it sounds like heaven. It smells like honey. He stuck his left ear out of the hole in the wall so that he could hear the music better. And he stuck his right ear out so that he could hear better still. And it wasn't too long before one of his paws followed his head, and then another paw. And without really any plan on Despereaux's part, the whole of him was on display, all in an effort to get closer to the music. Now, while Despereaux did not indulge in many of the normal behaviors of mice, he did adhere to one of the most basic and elemental of all mice rules. Do not ever, under any circumstance, reveal yourself to humans. But the music, oh, the music. The music made him lose his head and act against the few small mouse instincts he had in possession. And because of this, he revealed himself, and in no time at all, he was spied by the sharp-eyed Princess P. Oh, Papa, she said, look, a mouse! The king stopped singing, and he squinted, and the king was nearsighted. That is, anything that was not right in front of his eyes was very difficult to see. Where? Said the king. There, said the Princess P, and she pointed. Oh, that, my dear P, is a bug, not a mouse. It is much too small to be a mouse. No, it's a mouse. A bug, says the king, who liked to be right. A mouse, said the pea, who knew that she was right. As for Despereaux, he was beginning to realize that he had made a very grave error. He trembled, he shook, he sneezed, he considered fainting. He's frightened, said the pea. Look, he's so afraid, he's shaking. I think he was listening to the music. Play something more, Papa. A king play music for a bug? King Philip wrinkled his forehead. Is that proper, do you think? Wouldn't that make this into some kind of topsy-turvy, wrong-headed world if a king played music for a bug? Papa, I told you he's a mouse, said the pea. Please. Oh, well, if it'll make you happy, I, the king, will play music for a bug. A mouse, corrected the pea. The king adjusted his heavy gold crown. He cleared his throat. He strummed the guitar and started to sing a song about stardust. The song was as sweet as light shining through stained glass windows, as captivating as the story in a book. Despereaux forgot all his fear. He only wanted to hear the music. He crept closer and closer still until, reader, he was sitting right at the foot of the king. Chapter 5. What Furlough Saw. The Princess P looked down at Despereaux and she smiled at him. And while her father played another song, a song about the deep purple falling over sleepy garden walls, the princess reached out and touched the top of the mouse's head. Despereaux stared up at her in wonder. The pea, he decided, looked just like the picture of the fair maiden in the book in the library. The princess smiled at Despereaux again, and this time Despereaux smiled back. And then something incredible happened. The mouse fell in love. Okay, here's a picture of Despereaux looking up at the pea. It says, I have to look, I can't see from there. Despereaux stared up at her in wonder. Reader, you may ask this question. In fact, you must ask this question. Is it ridiculous for a very small, sickly, big-eared mouse to fall in love with a beautiful human princess named P? The answer is yes, of course it's ridiculous. Love is ridiculous. But love is also wonderful and powerful, and Despereaux's love for the Princess P would prove, in time, to be all of these things. Powerful, wonderful, and ridiculous. You're so sweet, said the princess to Despereaux. You're so tiny. And as Despereaux looked up at her adoringly, Furlough happened to scurry past the princess's room, moving his head left to right to left, back and forth. Cripes, said Furlough, and he stopped. He stared into the princess's room. His whiskers became as tight as bowstrings. What Furlough saw was Despereaux Tilling sitting at the foot of the king, and what Furlough saw was the princess touching the top of his brother's head. Cripes, shouted Furlough again. Oh, he's nuts. He's a goner. And, executing a classic scurry, Furlough went off to tell his father, Lester Tilling, the terrible, unbelievable news of what he just saw. And we are going to stop there for today. So tomorrow I will start at chapter 6 and we'll see how far we get. Okay, don't forget to send me your favorite food because Miss G is needing some new ideas on what to fix. And I'll put my email address down in the description. I'll link my Facebook. I'll try to link my Facebook Messenger if you aren't in my class or you have no way of sending me an email. And we can get your answer that way. Okay, see you soon.